This is WDSU News at noon.
And Hurricane Michael on the verge of becoming a major hurricane, getting stronger by the minute as it moves north into the Gulf of Mexico. This is a live look at Panama City Beach in Florida, where mandatory evacuation is in place right now. Florida's governor is calling the storm monstrous.
Hurricane Michael is forecast to be the most destructive storm to hit the Florida Panhandle in decades. The storm will be life-threatening and extremely dangerous.
Meanwhile, low-lying areas in Louisiana already seeing some flooding. These are just some of the pictures right here we've been getting from Grand Isle. That coastal flood advisory is still in place for the viewing area. Thanks for joining us. For the news at noon, I'm Charles Divins.
And I'm Christina Watkins. WDSU meteorologist Quaylen Murphy has been tracking Hurricane Michael for you, and she has more details on its path. Quaylen.
Christina and Charles, 110 miles per hour. That's the latest intensity on this system. 111 is Cat 3 status, and I think we'll be there very soon. Here's the latest information on Michael right now. Moving north at 12 miles per hour, becoming more symmetric. So we're starting to see more showers and storms on all sides of this system. Also, what's visible here is an inner eye wall. We have a hurricane hunter doing several passes over the system and through the system right now. I think we'll be coming up on more updated data very soon. But in the meantime, we're watching this system with thunderstorms bursting around that center, an indication that we'll likely see some intensification shortly. And that's what the National Hurricane Center forecast calls for by tonight, if not sooner. Cat 3 status, winds of 120 miles per hour. The system will continue to the north, and landfall still slated for around midday or so Wednesday. Could be a little bit sooner, could be a little later, depending on if the system's forward motion slows down. It'll continue to pull to the north. It'll quickly weaken, but notice as it moves over South Carolina or Georgia into South Carolina and then North Carolina, it still has tropical storm force potential. Then it moves offshore as a post-tropical system by Friday morning. We're not getting direct impacts, of course, from Michael, but indirect with showers, those outer bands spreading over. That's why you notice you get some showers. You say, is it raining outside? That's what we get in the newsroom. Is it raining? And so it is, and then it stops. Coastal flood advisory continues as well, and that's with the onshore flow of these winds. 10 to 20 miles per hour right now. Some of those higher gusts as well popping. You can see 20 plus miles per hour. So expect more of the same through the afternoon and through this evening with the showers. But we do have some changes coming this week with the cold front. More on that in just a little bit. Back to you.
Thank you, Quaylen. Experts say this could be the first major hurricane for Florida's Panhandle in more than a decade. The system is fast approaching and is expected to make landfall tomorrow. Liz Palka is in Washington with more on how the federal and state officials are preparing.
President Trump is keeping an eye on the storm, which could become a Category 3 hurricane when it hits the Gulf Coast on Wednesday. This morning, Florida Governor Rick Scott said he asked President Trump to declare a pre-landfall emergency for the state in preparation for Hurricane Michael. He also issued a state of emergency for more than 30 Florida counties and activated more than 1,200 National Guardsmen. Hurricane Michael is expected to bring torrential rain, heavy winds, and dangerous storm surges when it strikes the state. FEMA says it has crews in place now and is sending more resources to help. Florida will not be the only state affected. Neighboring Alabama is bracing for impact, and Michael could become a tropical storm as it reaches Georgia and the Carolinas later in the week. In Washington, I'm Liz Palka.
Liz, thank you. And you can track the tropics by downloading the WDSU Hurricane Central app. It's free for your Android and iPhone devices. And breaking news right now, the hunt is on for a new UN ambassador. This comes as Nikki Haley has announced her resignation from the Trump administration, leaving at the end of the year. In a joint news conference with the president, the former South Carolina governor says she is taking a break with no immediate plans. President Trump calls Haley a very special person who gets it, adding that she told him 6 months ago that she might want to take some time off.
Well, one of the suspects in last year's deadly armored car robbery changed his plea. He now pleads guilty to 6 counts against him. That includes armed robbery. 25-year-old Deltwan Scott was one of 3 suspects arrested for the crime that happened last May. He and 2 others are accused of trying to rob a Loomis armored car while the employees were working on an ATM at the Campus Federal Credit Union on Tulane Avenue. Loomis employee James McBride was shot and killed during that attempted armed robbery. As part of a plea agreement with federal prosecutors, Scott changed his plea to guilty to 6 of the counts against him.
In his best interest, we knew this was the right thing to do for him to plead. And as you saw in court, or you will know in court, that he took responsibility for what happened. The government did not promise him anything, but he took it as a man and he made his statement, and that's why we entered into the plea.
And 2 other suspects, Armstead Kiefer and his son Jerome, still face charges in the crime. Scott returns to federal court on January 30th. Well, there are some significant changes to enrollment in New Orleans public charter schools.
Yeah, where you live could soon play a bigger role in where your kids go to school. The idea just announced minutes ago, and WDSU's Jennifer Crockett is live at the school board office on the West Bank with those details. Jennifer.
This is happening in New Orleans, so if you live within a half a mile of a public charter school, your kids could soon get priority placement to attend those schools. The outline coming out just minutes ago during a press conference on the unification process, after which I asked the Orleans Parish Superintendent Dr. Henderson Lewis about One App. And a legislative audit just released this summer that showed a serious shortage of good schools here in New Orleans. And we've heard from a lot of parents, too, who say they can't get their kids into high-performing schools in their own neighborhoods. Dr. Lewis told me today that could be about to change. Here's what the board is considering now.
I've been saying over and over again that it was not about the One App, Enroll NOLA, or a common enrollment system. It was about school quality. This board, within the first 90 days of unification, is passing policy to actually make changes where if you live within a certain half-mile radius of a school, you have the opportunity to be able to actually attend that school.
Now, this does still need board approval, and Dr. Lewis said that if the half-mile priority placement is passed, it would go into effect next school year. The board's expected to vote on the measure next month. Reporting live on the West Bank, I'm Jennifer Crockett, WDSU News.
Okay, Jennifer, thank you. It is Junior NBA Week, and the New Orleans Pelicans teamed up with NORD to bring light to blight. WDSU reporter Kelly Brown has details on how the NBA is creating a safe play space for kids.
Good afternoon, guys. Well, the New Orleans Pelicans have taken flight for the community, and they've landed right here at A.L. Davis Playground. The Pelicans are making their mark at A.L. Davis Playground to dedicate a refurbished basketball court. City leaders, NORD, and Pelicans general manager Dell Demps were all on site for a ribbon cutting of a new up-to-date basketball court. Following the dedication, students got to try the court out during a basketball clinic. They got the chance to run drills, jump, and have hands-on conversations about life lessons that connect to basketball.
And it's all about development, it's teaching kids how to work together and not only become good basketball players, but become good teammates and become good friends and finding ways to work together and all have a common goal.
Now, the Pelicans organization says that this is just the first of many dedications at playgrounds around the city, and they hope to continue to make their mark throughout this community. Reporting from Uptown, Kelly Brown, WDSU News.
Kelly, thank you. Right now at 12:07, you are taking a live look at the Supreme Court. That is where Justice Brett Kavanaugh is beginning his first day on the job. Insiders say he's asking a handful of questions in the first arguments of the day. Justice Kavanaugh asked questions of both sides in arguments over increased prison sentences for repeat offenders. He jumped in with his first question after most of the justices already spoke. There were no disruptions in the courtroom. Chief Justice John Roberts welcomed Justice Kavanaugh on behalf of the entire court, wishing him the traditional long and happy career in our common calling.
And from Commitment 2018, another show of support for unanimous juries in Louisiana.
Yeah, today the Louisiana Conference of Catholic Bishops announced its support for this measure, which would require unanimous jury verdicts in all felony trials. Louisiana's current law states that 10 of 12 jurors are needed to find a defendant guilty to life without parole. But many lawmakers say they're against it, and they're calling the more than 100-year-old practice, quote, archaic. So in a statement, the Louisiana Conference of Catholic Bishops said, quote, the unanimity of a jury does not simply ensure that the legal standard of beyond a reasonable doubt has been met, but it also brings our legal system into much closer accord with the cardinal virtues of prudence and justice, end quote. All of this, of course, comes down to you, the voters, on November 6th. That is when you will decide to change it or keep it in its place. That will be Amendment 2 on the ballot. Well, more money to help combat Louisiana's opioid epidemic. Coming up, we'll tell you the steps LSU is taking to expand treatment in the state.
Plus, the Saints defeat the Redskins, and Drew Brees breaks an NFL record. A recap of last night's game in the Superdome.